Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. In a dense thicket of pine trees, just beyond the whispers of a sleepy Oregon town, lay the secret that would unravel the lives of many. It was a place where darkness tangled itself with the earthy scent of damp soil, and where shadows shifted as the sun dipped below the horizon. The once peaceful woods took on a different aura that September evening in 2015. A road crew embarking on a routine maintenance job discovered the first clue of a crime that would send shockwaves through the community. Beneath the underbrush, a glint caught the eyes of one of the workers. Crouching down, he brushed back layers of leaves and branches, revealing a weathered child's shoe. The discovery wasn't alarming initially. Children's footwear was often found in these woods, remnants of summertime adventure. But as they dug deeper, their enthusiasm morphed into unease. The shoe was not merely abandoned. It was stained and scuffed, marked with the stories of neglect. The news spread like wildfire, igniting a fervor that mingled with fear. The local sheriff, Emily Harris, a steadfast figure in the community known for her level-headedness, found herself face to face with an unfolding mystery. Each new detail that emerged compounded her sense of responsibility. What had happened to the child who wore the shoe? Where were their parents? And most importantly, why was the shoe here, hidden away from the world? This marked the beginning of a dark chapter, not only for the town, but also for those entangled in the inevitable pursuit of truth. As the days wore on, the weight of uncertainty would grow heavier, and soon, the stillness of the pines would be pierced by questions left unanswered. The victim. The tiny shoe weighed heavily on the minds of many, igniting the memories of every parent and guardian who could remember their own child's innocent wanderings. But it was the moment Sheriff Emily Harris sat across from a concerned couple in her office that the gravity of the shoe truly sank in. Was he wearing those shoes when you last saw him? Emily's voice was steady, but her insides churned, knowing how dire the questions must have felt. The couple's faces were creased with worry, their brows taut. Tom and Lisa Kent were, until this moment, a typical family. Their 10-year-old son, Jamie, had always been a slight, energetic boy, full of laughter and curiosity intermittently loud in quiet rooms, and often lost in scientific wonders. Now they seemed like shells of their former selves, waiting for hope to fill the void. Yes, Lisa whispered, her voice breaking as she glanced at her husband. He wore those shoes when he went out to play. The very mention of Jamie in the past tense sent a pang of dread through the room, a stark reminder of the reality facing them. As Emily listened to the Kents recount the circumstances leading to Jamie's disappearance in his neighbor's yard, where he went to chase butterflies, his habitual return, just before sundown, she noted every detail. She could feel the unwelcome knot in her stomach tighten. Children had a tendency to get swept away by the enchantment of nature and adventure. But as they continued, the reality began to twist. The couple described the last day they saw their son how the shadows grew longer and the chirping crickets signaled nightfall, yet Jamie never returned home. It seemed impossible a child could disappear without a trace. Emily could see the flickering of hope in their eyes slowly being replaced by the cold grip of despair. This entirely innocent boy had now become a victim held hostage by the very elements of the wild he sought to explore. As she jotted down notes, the silence in the room was deafening. Jamie's disappearance weighed heavily on Emily's heart. She knew too well that the brighter the child, the harder the loss cut, a reality she would soon have to face head-on as the investigation solidified the tight grip of fear that enveloped the town. The crime scene. The following morning, Sheriff Emily Harris stood at the edge of the forest, the air thick with humidity and tension. As the sun broke through the canopy of pines, dappling the ground with light, it felt incongruous against the darkness of the task at hand. The woods, once just a backdrop for childhood adventures, were now transformed into a space of uncertainty, filled with the unsettling weight of a child's absence. Crime scene tape flapped gently in the soft breeze, but the metamorphosis of the normal into the ominous was palpable. Emily turned to a team of investigators, their expressions a blend of professionalism and somber acknowledgement. It was a scene they understood well, yet one that would never become routine. They began their work methodically, establishing a perimeter and documenting every detail with careful precision. Here, a forensic technician called out, scanning a cluster of pine needles. They had found a promising lead, a small, crumpled piece of fabric snagged on a branch. As Emily stepped closer, her heart raced. It was a fragment of what appeared to be a t-shirt, blue and white, emblazoned with a cartoon character. The same outfit Jamie supposedly wore that day, a small bit of hope entwined with despair, indicating he had been here. "Let's process it," Emily instructed, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. She knew already that they would need to collect everything, hear every piece of evidence, no matter how minute. Because the smallest detail could change it. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the atmosphere grew chillier. It felt as if the trees were leaning in, watching silently as the investigators began to unravel their twisted story. Moments later, a faint cry echoed from behind a cluster of rocks, a muffled sound, raw and haunting. Instinctually, Emily and her team exchanged worried glances, hearts pounding as they abandoned their carefully laid plans and rushed toward the source of the noise. The tangled underbrush was unforgiving, but they pushed through, adrenaline spurring them forward. As they rounded the rocks, the world paused, their breath seized in their throats. There, lying near a fallen log, was a small backpack, Jamie's name scratched into the fabric. In that heartbeat of time, the realization struck like a thunderbolt. This investigation had morphed from the search for a missing child to a focus on a deeper, darker reality. The crime scene had shifted from a simple gathering of evidence to a soul-searching quest for survival alone that would require every ounce of resolve and strength the community possessed. But as Emily's eyes rested on that backpack, she felt the weight of inevitability. The secrets held within these woods were bound to challenge the very heart of the town. The early investigation, with the discovery of Jamie's backpack sending palpable shockwaves through the community, the urgency of the investigation escalated. Sheriff Emily Harris gathered her team in the makeshift command center, a community hall that buzzed with tension and a network of local volunteers eager to help. Posters with Jamie's smiling face began to pepper the town, while a string of leads and tips poured, in each one a potential thread to unravel the mystery of his disappearance. As the sun waned, casting an orange glow over the boardroom, Emily stood at the front, a battle-worn resolve etched into her features. Area around where the backpack was found. We'll divide the teams to cover more ground. Let's also reach out to the parents of any children who have played in those woods recently. We need to know if Jamie was seen with anyone else. Her directive cut through the stale air, inspiring action amidst the anxious murmurs. The team sprang into motion, each member carrying a sense of purpose, the gravity of the situation grounding them. Detective Mark Ramirez, known for his sharp instincts, volunteered to check with the local schools, seeking any potential witnesses among Jamie's classmates. He was determined to find anyone who might have seen the boy in the days leading up to his disappearance. Meanwhile, another team headed into the underbrush, meticulously combing for evidence. They moved silently, respecting the gravity of the situation. Each rustle of leaves felt amplified against the tense backdrop of community gossip echoing in the periphery. As they probed deeper into the forest, their flashlights danced off the coarse bark of the trees, their different angles revealing an eerie presence, as if the woods themselves were guardians of a dark secret. A quick call from the tech team sent a ripple of urgency through the ranks. They had gained access to Jamie's social media accounts, the innocent trail of a child's life laid bare in posts and photos. Carefully scrolling through, they noticed a cycle of activity that built like a crescendo. Several online friends were engaging with playful messages and pictures. Among his friends lurked a name that raised red flag Somion his parents hadn't mentioned: Caleb, a boy from school known for his troubled background. The air thickened with apprehension as Emily's brow furrowed. "We'll need to bring him in for questioning," she declared, the team nodding in agreement. They sensed the tension rising. The investigation had taken a sharp turn, opening up a new strand that might unravel the heart of the case. But fear hung in the air, a daunting whisper of what lay ahead. As dusk approached, an unsettling stillness enveloped the room, each investigator feeling the combined weight of each unexplained moment, the unresolved questions echoing ever louder. Would they be prepared to confront whatever truth the investigation would unearth? As they gathered their materials and prepared for the night ahead, Emily's mind buzzed with urgency. They were running against time, and the clock was ticking. The dead ends. Days turned into a blur of frantic activity as Sheriff Emily Harris and her team hammered away at every lead they stumbled upon. The urgency to uncover Jamie's whereabouts permeated the air, thick with desperation and determination. Yet, the outcome was a constant heartbeat of frustration. Each avenue of inquiry seemed to lead down winding paths, ultimate departures into dead ends, leaving the investigators standing in the cold shadow of confusion. Detective Mark Ramirez reported back after interviewing Caleb, the boy at the center of many whispers. Caleb was a quiet, sullen presence, refusing to make eye contact as he clutched his worn backpack. His lack of enthusiasm palpable. His alibi was flimsy, asserting he had been home during the time of Jamie's disappearance, though his disheveled appearance suggested otherwise. Yet, without corroboration, they had no grounds to pursue him further. The mere essence of suspicion felt like a futile exercise. Meanwhile, the canvassing of the neighborhoods yielded little more than idle chatter and vague sightings that circled back to uncertainty. Countless kids were questioned, each recalling the same fragmented memories of the sun-drenched afternoon they had spent exploring the area. Each one had a different version of how far they had wandered into the woods, but all shared the same disheartening refrain: they had not seen Jamie. Frustration gnawed at Emily, her instincts honing in on the shadows that crept around the edges of this entire investigation. With each day that passed, the urgency seemed to morph into a haunting realization that time was not on their side. Tension escalated within the command center, The mounting pressure now felt almost unbearable. Volunteers who once poured hope and energy into the search began to dwindle, their faces now reflecting despair. Some even began to question her leadership. In the quiet of her office one night, Emily stared at the wall filled with maps, photos, and timelines of painstakingly crafted attempts to create a sense of order from chaos. As she rubbed her temples, the frustration metamorphosed into anger at the darkness of humanity. She understood why the community had begun to whisper, why parents glared at each other from across the grocery aisles, filled with unspoken blame. When a child goes missing, the unraveling threads echo through every corner of a town, causing fissures even in the strongest bonds. The clock struck midnight, each toll reverberating through the stillness. The glow of the desk lamp illuminated her face as she willed herself to keep moving forward. Yet, behind every lead that dwindled, every promising lead that led to another dead end, lay a chilling reminder. She was on the precipice of a storm that might reveal the worst of what lay beneath the surface. And every passing day, Jamie remained lost, a flickering light, dimming as the investigation tightened its grip around uncertainty. She could not afford to lose faith, but the gnawing ache in her gut warned that the unraveling she so feared might just be inevitable. A break in the case. A shift in the weather heralded a turning point as storm clouds gathered overhead, casting a gloomy pall over the town. But within the confines of the command center, a different kind of electricity sparked in the air. It was late afternoon when a call came through that transformed the day from a stagnant stream into an urgent rush. An anonymous tipster had contacted the sheriff's office, stating they had seen a boy resembling Jamie near a rundown property just outside of town. Sheriff Emily Harris felt her heart quicken. "Follow up on that lead. I want everyone in the field," she ordered, her voice firm with renewed purpose. For the first time in days, a flicker of hope ignited, yet a twinge of skepticism twisted within her. The message was cryptic, and anonymity often brought layers of complicity. But there was no room for hesitation now. They owed it to Jamie's family and the entire community to investigate every threat. As teams mobilized, Emily pondered the rundown house that had long been the subject of urban legends and local lore. Rumors whispered of it being a hideout for lost souls and delinquents. It was a place that thrived in the shadows, filled with the echoes of laughter and misadventure, now shrouded by neglect. The house beckoned with a sense of foreboding, but Emily knew it was necessary to face the dark. Arriving at the location, the investigators spread out, eyes scanning the vicinity for signs of life. The house stood defiant against the elements, its cracked facade bared to the wind. Broken windows pierced like vacant eyes, and the front door creaked ominously on its hinges. Emmeline moved cautiously, her breath mingling with the gusts of wind, the faint scent of wet earth surrounding. "Check the upstairs," Emily directed her team, heart pounding with anticipation as she stepped forward. It felt surreal, the convergence of fear and hope pulling at her gut. The group methodically went through each room, tilting their flashlights into the corners where darkness clung like a specter. Then, a muffled noisy voice filtered through the decaying wood. The air around them felt electric with possibility, and Emily motioned her colleagues to freeze, hearts racing in unison. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, each word tinged with urgency. The group carefully approached the source, and as they turned a corner into a small, ill-lit room, there he was, hunched and trembling but entirely alive. Jamie. His blue eyes widened in disbelief as the figures began to materialize in the shadowy light. Freedom and horror collided in a singular moment. Emily's voice broke the heavy silence, strong yet tender. Relief washed over her like a cleansing rain. "You're safe now." As the team rushed to the boy, questions tumbled forth like a cascading river. But first, Jamie needed warmth, comfort, a sense of safety amidst the storm that enforced itself upon both him and his rescuers. Words. The investigation had taken a fateful turn, shifting from mere speculation to the heart of truth, where Jamie's survival became the nucleus of their ongoing resolve. But even as joy surged through the air, shadows lingered, waiting for the next chapter of this harrowing tale to unfold. The storm outside mirrored the storm of uncertainties yet to come. The suspect. Joy surged through the command center as the news of Jamie's rescue spread like wildfire. But the celebration was short-lived, for nestled within the elation lay a darker undercurrent, a myriad of questions that begged for answers. After hours of comforting the boy, Sheriff Emily Harris prepared to interview Jamie, keenly aware that understanding his experience would be crucial in piecing together the reality of what had transpired. In a quiet room just off the main hall, Jamie sat, his small frame wrapped in a thick blanket, eyes rimmed with fatigue. His face was smudged, the echoes of fear still etched into his features. "I'm just glad you're safe, Jamie," Emily spoke softly, crouching down to his level. "Can you tell me what happened?" As the boy spoke, his voice trembled, each word carefully chosen as he painted a picture of events. "I was playing, I met a man," Jamie began, his gaze darting to the window as though the memory lurked just beyond the glass. "He said he had a puppy, and I followed him." Emily nodded, encouraging him gently. Every detail mattered. Every nuance was a potential thread to follow. Jamie described the man as having a scruffy beard and a crooked smile, someone who had seemed friendly and safe to a child eager for adventure. His small voice cracked as he recounted how the man lured him deeper into the woods, promising unseen treasures. As he spoke, a chill ran down Emily's spine. The image of Caleb resurfaced, and then Jamie continued, color draining from his face. "He took me to the old house. I was scared, he said I couldn't leave." Rising instinctively, Emily felt a knot tighten in her stomach as she processed the information Jamie provided. The unknown man was becoming not just a suspect, but a figure cloaked in growing dread. "Jamie, did you ever see this man before? Was it someone you knew?" He hesitated, then nodded slightly. "I think he's from the neighborhood." The name hung heavy in the air, charging the room with palpable tension. Emily's world of black and white realities began to color with shades of gray. Caleb had been on her radar, his troubled history, The whispers of his peers called. This be the connection that tied them to the darkness in the wood. After assuring Jamie he was safe, Emily wasted no time organizing another round of interviews with Caleb, his friends, and anyone who might provide insight into the boy's world. A cloud of unease hung over the command center, the team moving with heightened urgency. The fear of a predator lurking among them grew heavier and more palpable as time ticked away. Within an hour, she found herself at Caleb's home, heart racing with the weight of questions simmering just below the surface. She could sense tension in the air, a culmination of all the thoughts and truths, swirling toward a confrontation that might challenge every conviction she held. As she raised her hand to knock on the door, she steeled herself, knowing this was not just an inquiry, it was the beginning of an exploration into darkness she could not yet see. The door creaked open, revealing a face marked with youthful defiance and unspoken secrets. Caleb's eyes flickered with recognition as Innocence fractured against the backdrop of Jamie's survival. The interplay between them felt irrevocably charged. The confrontation that lay ahead would force the shadows to reveal their secrets, buried deep beneath the static of fear and betrayal. This was a moment that would tilt the balance, one that would unravel the truth, leaving no one unscathed. The trial. Months passed since Jamie's rescue. Yet the echoes of that fateful day reverberated through the town, culminating now in the courtroom where the weight of grief and anger was poised to explode. The trial of Caleb Monroe had begun a process imbued with tension that caused whispers to travel through the gallery like a chilling breeze. The community had long awaited this moment, yet dread coiled around the air. So many questions remained unanswered. As Emily Harris entered the courtroom, she felt a familiar surge of determination coursing through her veins. The room was packed with familiar faces. Parents, friends, and townsfolk drawn together not only by support for Jamie and his family, but by the shared pain that had become a collective burden. They understood that this was more than a trial. It was a chance to reclaim their innocence after suffering the unimaginable. Caleb sat across the room, his demeanor markedly different from the wild-eyed boy Emily had confronted. He appeared stoic, hardened by circumstances beyond his years, his gaze fixed on the floor as the proceedings began. It became painfully clear. Within him lay a tumult of torment, a potential reflection of the darkness he had both endured and unleashed. The prosecutor's voice resonated throughout the chamber, delivering a powerful opening statement. They presented the details gathered since Jamie's recovery, piecing together not just the events of the day the boy disappeared, but also illuminating the history of Caleb's troubled past. With each piece of evidence, texts, witness statements, and Jamie's testimony, the air thickened with disbelief and strained emotions. As the defense offered their arguments, attempting to portray Caleb as a victim of circumstance, an impressionable boy influenced by a chaotic home life, Emily clenched her jaw. She understood what they were trying to do, but it didn't absolve him of culpability. Justice demanded accountability, not a retreat into narratives that oversimplified the complex web of humanity. But it was Jamie's testimony that became the heart of the trial, drawing everyone into a raw, fragile moment. As he took the stand, vulnerability wrapped around him like a cloak. He spoke with both clarity and courage. "I trusted him," Jamie recounted, his voice steady but shaken. He recounted how Caleb lured him in, how he had believed he would play with a puppyish word, resonating through the court, a haunting reminder that innocence is often exploited by the very shadows created by fear. As the trial unfolded, there were moments of turbulence. raised voices, emotional outbursts, and the clamor of a community wrestling with their emotions. Emily observed as Jamie's family supported him, wrapping him in love while acknowledging their unending grief, not just for the time lost, but for the remnants of innocence chipped away by the ordeal. The trial became a crucible where both despair and resilience battled. After weeks of testimony, closing arguments brought a tentative closure, leaving the fate of Caleb Monroe hanging delicately in the balance. The jury withdrew, leaving all in attendance suspended in a taut silence, wondering whether justice would prevail. In the days that followed, anticipation rippled through the town, but in each heart lay the fear that justice would not be served. Struggling against her own swirling doubts, Emily remained focused on Jamie's growth as he began to reclaim his life. The trial, regardless of the outcome, represented a confrontation with the darkness that Ava had so painstakingly sought to shield from the light, a battle fought both in the courtroom and deep within their soul. Finally, the day of the verdict arrived. As the jury emerged, the tension in the room reached a breaking point. With bated breath, eyes locked on the foreman, the decision began to unravel, a defining moment for a community scarred yet resolute. Whether liberated or burdened, they would soon learn that the threads of their lives would forever be changed, forever intertwined by the specter of childhood innocence, resilience, and fragility laid bare. The aftermath. The courtroom buzzed with an electricity that was almost palpable as the jury rendered its decision. The word guilty rang out. A wave of emotions washed over those present. A collective sigh mingled with tearsome tears of relief, some of anguish. The guilty verdict offered a fragile sense of closure, yet it was only the beginning of a longer, more complicated journey toward healing. For Jamie Kent and his family, life continued to unfold, a slow reweaving of the fabric of their daily existence. Albeit forever altered, they returned home to a place once filled with laughter, but now heavy with the shadows of what had transpired. It was a struggling, persistent endeavor to reclaim it had been stolen. Sheriff Emily Harris visited them often, providing support tailored to their needs, but also seeking to understand the evolving ramifications. "You'll always have your friends," she reassured Jamie during one of her visits, attempting to coax a smile from the boy. "They'll help you remember the happier times." But it was within self-imposed silence that Jamie found solace. He often preferred the company of books and the whispers of nature over the clamor of human interaction. Days turned into weeks as he skirted the edges of his old life, grappling with fear, but also slowly with the emergence of hope and resilience. His parents watched with cautious eyes, cherishing each moment of laughter that returned while fearing the shadows that lurked nearby. As word of the verdict spread through the town, some hailed it as a triumph of justice, offering a reassuring embrace. Others belonged to a different camp, feeling unsettled by the stark reality of a child's betrayal this dynamic. Left an indelible mark on relationships among neighbors. The community's facade of tranquility faded, revealing fractures that exposed judgments, biases, and fears. Amidst it all, Emily found herself grappling with her own aftermath. The case had weighed heavily on her, the specter of vulnerability now entwined with her guiding principles. In town meetings that followed, discussions turned towards safeguarding children, igniting fervor about community awareness and Emily led the charge, determined to create programs designed not just to protect, but to educate both parents and children alike. But as the town moved forward, whispers of the past lingered like ghosts that had not yet departed. Speculation surrounding Caleb Monroe continued to swirl through the halls of schools, serving as both cautionary tale and tragedy reminder that innocence can be a fickle veil. The boy who had entrapped Jamie was no longer simply a name. He represented a cautionary shadow that haunted the hearts of parents and children alike. With gradual resolve, Jamie returned to his school. Entering the hallways that felt foreign yet familiar. Teachers embraced him with open arms, and friends hesitantly approached, unsure of how to navigate the unspoken memories that lingered just below the surface. A new year lay ahead, the opportunity for fresh beginnings punctuated by challenges awaiting resolution. In time, laughter crept back into the Kent home, but it was tinged with a careful hesitation. The journey toward recovery, Emily realized, would not simply live within the framework of a trial or a verdict. Instead, it resided in the choices that would be made in response to loss, the willingness to confront the unknown, and the courage to find one's way back to light, even when the road seemed endlessly daunting. Ultimately, while the echoes of the past reverberated in their lives, they forged ahead, threading new narratives of hope. The shadows that lingered would always exist, yet the bonds of resilience grew stronger, gentle, persistent force, reclaiming a sense of belonging and safety. As time wrapped its arms around them, the heartbeats of a once-stricken community resounded with a newfound understanding. They were not defined by their traumas, but by the strength to rebuild, to connect, and to rise anew amidst the stories. Intertwined like veins in the fabric of their lives. Reflection. As winter settled over the town, a gentle blanket of snow highlighted every crevice and soft curve of familiar landscapes. In moments of quiet, Sheriff Emily Harris would often reflect on the harrowing journey that had shaped not only Jamie and his family, but the entire community. The snowfall, though beautiful, served as a reminder that even the coldest of seasons could bring about renewal, layering over what had once felt raw and exposed. Gathered in the Kent living room one evening, Emily locked eyes with Jamie, who was drawing his pencil flying over paper, shaping his dreams and weaving his own narrative. It was a scene she had often imagined upon encountering the boy just months before the terror in his eyes, the weight of his experience now lightening in the presence of all he had overcome. Emily felt tears prick her eyes as she admired his tenacity, understanding the weight of survival and growth. Each thought she entertained felt fragmented, like pieces struggling to find their rightful places in an intricate puzzle. She couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that the town, once so vibrant, now wore an invisible shroud, echoing with the remnants of nightmares. Yet, there was determination in the air, a promise that this community would not falter in the face of fear. In her reflections, Emily realized that resilience was not just returning to life as it was before. It was acknowledging the scars and moving forward stronger together. Jamie's journey was just beginning, bursting forth with the possibility of reclaiming his childhood while forever being marked by the truth of his experience. For the town, the trial marked an awakening of awareness where the innocence of childhood was both cherished and fiercely protected. As snowflakes drifted lazily outside, she felt a renewed sense of commitment to her role as both protector and guide, ready to confront whatever darkness may come next. Each heartbeat echoed a determination. They would rise together, and together they would thrive.